Hello humans, apologies for the wonky angle. The sewing room is changing. This room has been through various iterations for me to try and figure out a situation that works for me because it's a very small space where I do a lot of stuff. But we've had a very exciting opportunity. A friend of ours called Jed, who is an alternative clothing designer who Hamish used to intern, has offered us their vintage industrial sewing machine free of charge, which is incredibly exciting. But it also means a buttload of moving stuff around and organising because the sewing room exists in a constant state of chaos. So the chair has been moved. We need to shift this out of the way. This is an absolute chaotic mess of nonsense, and the desk that used to live here is no longer here. It's now going to live downstairs, which means we also need to do a bunch of jiggery-pokery down there, but that's fine. For ease of moving the industrial machine in, we're going to take this out of the room for now and bring it back in afterwards, because I think it's going to end up over here. We need to leave in 10 minutes to go to Jed's and have a bunch more moving to do, so wish us luck.
So I got the machine when Velda Lauder died. It's got a lot of history behind it. I was Velda's production assistant for 3 years back in the 1990s. That's where I kind of learned that I really like using my hands and making stuff. I really looked up to Velda. When I was her production assistant, it just seemed that she lived and breathed her work. And then when I started my own business, Velda would send people to me and I'd send people to Velda. We had this really nice kind of symbiotic relationship where we just kind of passed customers on to each other. Yeah, it kind of really hit hard when she died. Some of the people that were really, really close to her, like a former partner, well, obviously they were having to go through all her stuff. They came across the sewing machine and thought that I was the good person to inherit it.
You learned a lot of your corsetry skills from Velda?
Kind of. Velda's seamstress was a woman called Elaine. Me and Velda shared Elaine. She'd work part-time for Velda and part-time for me. She was also working part-time for another designer. Elaine would just bounce around between us. It was only after Velda died that I started making corsets, because obviously Elaine had worked for Velda for 20 odd years, and so Elaine knew a lot of the skills that Velda had built up over the years, because when Velda was making corsets there wasn't the proliferation of corsetry that there is now. You know, getting hold of a corset pattern was almost impossible back in the 90s. Elaine obviously absorbed a lot of the information that Velda had discovered. I just picked Elaine's brain and said, you know, what do you do with this, what do you do with that, because I also inherited some of Velda's fabric, and there was one particular fabric I didn't know what it was called. And so trying to find a source to buy this fabric, because I only had a little bit of it, and I was just like, how do I get this fabric? I really need it, because there's various layers that go into a corset. And I knew that I wanted to make corsets that were my style. Like Velda would make beautiful corsets, you know, all sorts of like curved corsets and very, very feminine. And she'd always use a busk, the traditional busk, and there's so many people out there that are using busks that I just thought, I'm gonna do everything apart from the busk.
Yeah, well, the reason we know each other is because Hamish used to work with you and learned a lot of stuff from you.
So I just realised that I wasn't using it. There's only so many flatbeds you can have, and because I'm relocating soon, it just made sense. I actually asked Elaine, I said to Elaine, you know, I don't really use Velda's machine anymore. Can we, you know, pass it down to the next generation? And she was overjoyed about the fact that it was going to be used.
The table is in place, which is very exciting. We actually removed the motor so that we could get it up the stairs more easily. So now we just have to put all of it back together.
If you don't know, Velda Lauder was a celebrated corsetier and fashion designer who created pieces for the likes of Dita Von Teese and Courtney Love. She developed a fascination with corsetry after moving to London in the mid-90s, where she encountered various recreations of Victorian and Edwardian corsets. She developed her own method of modern corset construction and released her debut corset collection in 1997. Velda had a profound impact on the proliferation of modern corsetry and the resurgence of vintage-style lingerie, creating designs that were embraced by fetishists, goths, burlesque performers, and general corset enthusiasts alike. When we think of history, it's really easy to think about it as a series of significant and large-scale events that are documented or recorded somehow, but it's kind of more than that. This machine has a history and is part of a history. So in many ways, history is a bit more like a giant, interconnecting web of stories, stretching back and stretching forward. I am so excited and so grateful to have this piece of fashion history in my home, and even more excited to use it. So thanks to Jed Phoenix for taking the time to chat to me. I'll link to their social media and their shop in the description. And thanks to you for taking this time to hang out with me and the new, to me, sewing machine. I hope everything is okay in your world, and I will see you all next time.